been a while since I've done a long video. I think some of you might not have realized that I've done shorts for a while. They were just easier to do while I was, gearing up my training more and more. And frankly, I didn't have a lot to say. There was, little thoughts now and then that I would put on video, but it's been a good summer, but a long summer, and I just didn't have a whole lot to say. A lot of stuff was going on inside, and if you consult my therapist, she thinks it's all good. She thinks it's a lot of progress and a lot of coming to terms with a lot of shit that I've carried and endured and caused in my life. And she's like, oh, you're growing up. Well, it's about fucking time since I'm nearly 50, but she might be right. She might be onto something. But anyways, so I didn't really have a ton to say. Plus, the retry on my hike is still 8 months away. Actually, 7 months and 3 weeks. But who's counting, right? But, so with that much distance between now and then, I really have been working out a lot. I've been writing a ton. And as I was doing my hike today, I was thinking about being 48 and how that's 6 8-year spans. Basically, if you're not a complete loser president who gets voted out after 4 years, then, it's basically a full presidential term times 6. Now, I've been through Carter, Reagan, Bush Sr., speaking of loser presidents, Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, the biggest loser of all, the walking zombie, and then the biggest loser returned. So, yeah, I've been through a lot of presidencies. But it kind of puts it all into 8-year frames, as I mentioned a second ago. And it's interesting to think about how 78, the condition I was born with, was pretty much lethal. Hardly anybody was ever born with it. And of those who were born with it, almost everybody died in infancy. The vast majority. And I somehow managed to survive. So move forward 8 years. That's 1986. And that was the year of the Challenger. That was a tough thing for school kids to endure. And certainly someone like me who was really obsessed with space by that point. But I was 8 years old. I had already gone through so many surgeries. Reconstructive on my hands. Constructive inside me when I was a baby. And by 8 years old, I was just starting to be a little bit more stable in my body. That was the year that I made my first basket playing basketball. It took me a year and a half to do it. That was the year that I learned to ride a bike on my own. I think I had a bike by like 6 or 7, but because of the huge difference in lengths in my arms, could not ride that thing, could not figure it out, and just didn't have the mental fortitude to find a way. By 8 years old, I figured it out. I was not I don't know how you describe it. I was not an upset kid. I was not depressed, but I was not happy either. I was basically just a walking tornado. I never stopped. Never knew what to do with all the energy I had and all the anger inside. And I was just starting to realize how much anger there was. So, okay, let's fast forward another 8 years. That takes us to 1994. I'm 16, and I've had my first job. I've had my first girlfriend, which shocked the hell out of me, I'll tell you, because I was ugly as sin. Not just physically, but I was also a smart-mouthed little punk bitch. I was always stirring trouble with everybody, teachers, classmates, Girls were the only people that I could stand being nice to. And it was just because, I don't know, they didn't really hassle me. And so I guess I came off nicely to the other sex because I had a girlfriend. It was fairly serious for a few months, especially for high school. So, I mean, I was a typical 16-year-old experience, even though my body was still fucked up. I had just had a major surgery when I was 15 to hammer a surgical spike basically through my right hand and forearm all the way down to near the elbow to anchor all that in place. So I was still being constructed, I guess you could say. And here we go. I was trying to get a license at 16. I was too blind. I could not pass the eye exam. I aced the written exam with a perfect score. I aced the driving test, even having to park an Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. I had to parallel park it between a Mercedes and a Lexus in one of the richest neighborhoods in town. Only time I've ever parallel parked. I did not get my turn during driver's ed, so I knew how to do it, but I had not practiced it. And somehow, miraculously, I managed to do it that one time. So I passed that, failed the eye exam miserably. Was devastated. I was so looking forward to freedom and not being, a pathetic little kid who has to ride the bus even at 16. And about 8 months later, I tried again and found somebody at the DMV who actually probably broke the law because she coaxed me through the eye exam, and I passed. I should not have passed. I'm old enough now and have seen enough and driven enough, ironic, and driven enough to know that she should not have passed me. It's amazing I never killed anybody else or myself in that car. But anyways, let's jump forward from 16 when I was just starting to get a little more stable and muscular, and all the way to 24. So that would be 2002. I have had a very strong beginning of my education career. I was teaching in New Hampshire. I was coaching in the Midwest. I was working, I had spent years now at this point teaching wilderness survival and behavior modification for troubled teenagers all up and down the East Coast. And I was also past the peak of the period in my life when I was an absolute monster. I'm not going to go into too much details, but needless to say, I was a very bad man for a period of time, while also being a very good teacher, kind of splitting my life in two, like Jekyll and Hyde in some ways. So by 24, I was kind of on the backside of that, but I still hadn't pulled my shit together. And honestly, I fully expected to never see 30. I thought I'd be dead by my late 20s, and either because of medical issues or just the insane lifestyle that I led outside of my career. But somehow I survived. Somehow I managed to get my shit together and make it all the way to 32, which was 2010. Now, 2010, I found the love of my life by that point. 5 years before that, we were engaged by 2010. We were living 2,000 miles away from where we met, and I was in, was it 2010? Yeah, I was 32 then. Okay. And I was in the second full year of a complete biological collapse. We didn't know it at the time, but my spine was taking more and more intense damage every day, and it was the ultimate cause of what at the time felt like constant high-grade pneumonia. For years, my lungs filled up with fluid to the point where I could not walk for very long without gasping. I couldn't go upstairs. I couldn't do a whole lot. And I tried at first. I tried to force myself through it like I always did everything in my life. And nothing worked. I was completely crippled for the first time in a life that spent the entire time being called crippled by others, but never living crippled. And this was devastating. I nearly fell apart mentally to match the physical collapse. And over the next few years, it really settled in that this was my life now. I was basically homebound, couldn't stand hot, couldn't stand cold, because anything that changes the air temperature in your lungs, when you have hardly no lung capacity, really does quite a bit of damage. So the next few years were absolute hell for me. At first I did not handle it well, but I eventually settled down and just accepted it and made peace with it. And sometimes I thought, you know what, this is karma. I spent so much of my late teens and young adulthood being an absolute monster. This is payback. And so I finally became okay with it. So everything settled down. And then we jump ahead to 2018, another 8 years. So I'm 40 at this point. And the year before I turned 40, they discovered the cause of all the medical problems that had been going on since 2008. And before then, actually, because we learned that the damage had started years before that, and some of it I didn't even notice at first. But by 2018, I had figured out the cause, and a nationally renowned spinal surgeon fixed it in the summer of 2017. So by 2018, my body had bounced back as far as my lungs worked again. I had sensation in my hands and feet that I didn't realize that I'd lost. I stopped having debilitating headaches all the time. And physiologically, I felt better. But mentally, I'd spent so much time doing absolutely nothing with my life that I really didn't know how to go back to being a person. I couldn't stand crowds. I couldn't stand noise, or just I didn't know what to do. Years passed with my body being healthy again, but my mind just not having any concept of how to be a person in the world again. And I swear to God, my sweetie is by far the best person on the planet. And yeah, even better than you. I'm sorry, she is. She has been an absolute masterpiece of a human being. And that resurgence of my body after the surgery was so great for her to see, and she was so thrilled for me to be feeling better. But she still was very supportive and understood that my mind had taken just as much damage as my body. So she continued to be a strong support, and we are such a tight bond together. It's been more than I ever deserved and could imagine. So we made it through the next several years. Pandemic happened. All the stuff you know in the news the last few years that's easy to remember, all that stuff happened. And now we move up to 2024, where, 2026. So yeah, this year. Wow, I gotta learn to count. So now I'm 48. That's the end of the 6th 8-year segment. And I had tried the AT last year, got 300 miles in when my kidneys filled up with kidney stones suddenly over the span of like a month, and my autonomic nervous system went haywire. I already knew there was a problem there, but because I'd been training and it had handled the training just fine, I thought I was going to be fine. But training in Indiana is not the same as actually doing the hike in mountains. So all that intensity day after day, even more intense than what I could do in Indiana. That just triggered something in my nervous system. So the muscles in my legs weren't doing well. My chest was, my heart was doing weird things with its heart rhythms. So yeah, like I said, and for those of you who have watched the channel already, you know, last year was a failure. And you know, that's fine. I know a lot of people say, oh, you didn't fail. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You have to accept that you will fail sometimes. And you have to accept calling it that. That was a failure. But I'm not dead yet, so I can try it again. And that's what this year has been about. So this is starting the 7th 8-year segment of my life. And 7's my lucky number. Like a lot of people, I guess, but especially mine. And we are going to see next year just how much further I can go. I'm going to start again next April 1st, just like last time. And I'm already in the best shape of my life. I am lighter. I am more muscular. I have been training my autonomic system with sudden hot showers, sudden cold showers, sprints after really, you know, like walking slowly with a bunch of weight on your back and then just sprinting. Basically everything I can do to shock my nervous system in a controlled setting and just shock it over and over and over. And it's been working. My heart rate's been able to get much more stable with intense exercise. It doesn't freak out. The temperature, oh my God, the shower temperature, that's the biggest torture ever. I swear. But I think it works too, because it's definitely toughening up the response, the physiological response that my body gives. So I think in some ways all this is coming together. And next year I will be 49 before I take off on the hike. And there you go. There's a multiples of 7 there. 7 7s instead of 8 or 6 8s. So maybe I'll do another video next year about the 7-year increments of my life, just to refresh people's memories. And I know some of you already know this, but a lot of you are new. And honestly, it helps me to kind of reframe and keep my mind on the fact that things are constantly changing. Just like how people always tell you, oh, you know, as bad as it is right now in the country or in the world, we just got to get through it. Well, first of all, you don't have to get through it. You have to push through it. You have to actually do something. This world will not change in any helpful way unless you actually participate in changing it. And that's really how my life has changed, is me participating in changing it over and over and over. And I think going through those 8-year segments and looking at how much things change in each grouping of years kind of reminds me of how much work I've done, how much I have to make up for, how much support I've had through the years, and also how much I've accomplished. You know, next year is going to be quite the year, because it's going to be my last year in my 40s. And I've known most of my life, or at least I was told by doctors a lot, that because of my medical issues, that I was already on borrowed time. And, you know, getting to my 50s would kind of be the end of the road if I was lucky. So I don't think that's going to happen now. But you never know. They could be right. They've often been wrong, because my willpower beats modern medicine for some reason. I don't know how, but it does. So I think I'm going to live longer, but you never know. And closing out my 40s is kind of scary. But knowing that I'm going to try this Appalachian Trail again, and I'm going to get it done before I'm 50, or, you know what, I might fail again. But as long as I'm not dead, I will try again. So you can probably pull some lessons out of that for you. You can pull some entertainment out of that, just if it means nothing to you. Or, you know, you can skip on to a video about the philosophical implications of anime. I don't know. Whatever you want to watch is fine with me. I'm doing this channel primarily for myself. And I think about the audience, and the narcissist in me wants people to watch me and love me and applaud me and all that bullshit. But that's just a small part of me. And the biggest part is really just a feral boy who wants to be able to look back on his own life at some point in the future when my memories were Swiss cheesed and remind myself that I managed to live when I wasn't supposed to, and I managed to make that life better than I started it. So that's really what all this is about, and if the rest of you take any value from it, that's an added bonus. So I've got to wrap up my hike and go have dinner. My sweetie's at the gym, and she's probably almost done, so I should meet her there so she doesn't have to wait too long. I hope you have a good weekend. I apologize for the long interval between regular videos. You should go check the tab for my shorts if you want to. If you don't, that's totally fine. I don't know. I don't really know how to end this because I keep trying to tell myself that this isn't for anybody but me. So I guess I will end it by saying, Dave, stop talking to yourself, you freak.